Spotlight on Altiora.
All right, I'm Luke.
And I'm Joshua. And today we're here with Mrs. Gunther, who is the CEO of Queen City Book Bank. So to start us off here, just tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Michelle Otten Gunther, and I get the privilege of working at the Queen City Book Bank. Mm-hmm. I started as a volunteer actually 12 years ago because my mom was a volunteer with our adult students. And that was our very first program back in 1986 when the organization was launched. And it was to help adults who read below a fourth grade reading level. And I became very passionate about that mission. And a good friend of mine worked there at the time, and that's how I got involved. And then about 10 years ago, I transitioned to become an employee. And it has been incredibly rewarding to get to be a part of this organization.
Yeah, so the organization, of course, started in 1986, yes. And this year will be the 40th anniversary of it. So are you planning anything special?
We sure are. Yes, great question. We are going to celebrate these 4 decades of our community helping to move our mission forward. We have a gala that we do each year in February, and we'll celebrate that. But we're really focusing on what happens next, because we know there is more work to be done. And so we just completed a strategic plan, and that strategic plan will enable us to grow even faster and further in the next decade. Our organization, as I mentioned, it has evolved over those 4 decades. We started servicing just adults who needed some basic reading help. And then we soon realized we really need to work more with children, because otherwise we will continue to have adults who can't read. And so that became a primary focus for us for pretty much the next 2 decades. And but that adult program, even though it is small, it is core to everything we do, and it's really why we double down with kids, because we don't want adults who cannot read. It's really one of the bravest days of their life when they come into us and they admit that they cannot read, because many of them don't even share that with their families. And so we really handle them with care and really understand what they're going through. And for some of them, they just maybe want to read a book to their grandchild, and others, they need additional certification for work. And we just meet them where they're at, and we help them get some micro wins under their belt so that it enhances their confidence to go ahead. But as I mentioned, the bulk of what we do is with kids. We train and place about 1,300 tutors every year to work with kids. And but about 8 years ago, I met the founder of Little Free Libraries, and I learned a startling statistic that just did not sit well with me and the others on our team. And it was that in a low-income neighborhood, there is one age-appropriate book for every 300 kids. And 61% of those families do not have books at home. And so it's really hard to become a strong reader if you don't have access to books. So we wanted to do a better job of allowing kids to have access to books, and that's when we decided to launch our Little Free Library program. And that has been a pivotal change for our organization, because not only can we provide the tutoring support, but we can couple that with the books. And then what we learned from that program brought us to where we are today with the Queen City Book Bank.
Nice, that's awesome. So when you talk about like growing, we were just recently shown this video in class. It was produced by somebody here. It was you putting in your 200th Little Free Library. Now, how have you gotten to that mission, and how has it can you explain your journey up until your 200th library, when you talk about like the statistic on how there's only one book for so many people. Can you talk about like how you've shrunk the number, and talk about your mission from there on out?
Yeah, absolutely. That was our driving impetus to really get that program up and running when we learned that statistic. And really after meeting Todd Bowl, it all just seemed to come together. And but we did a lot of research in order to be able to fund that first group of Little Free Libraries. We are the first organization nationally that gifted Little Free Libraries to stewards. Prior to that, everybody built their own or bought their own, And we knew in those low-income neighborhoods that we were servicing, that we consider book deserts, that they were not going to have $400 to $500 for a unit to place little, for the Little Free Library. And we would need to provide that. And so we were fortunate to get several groups to help fund that. And then I went to the neighborhood summit where people who really care about their community show up, and I shared this initiative and found people who were interested in becoming stewards. And our ask of them is to just keep it filled with books. We will be happy to provide the books to them, but we want to make sure there's a steady source of books, and that if it does get damaged, that they let us know so that we can come back and repair it. And it was very grassroots. And once the word got out, then it just continued to spread, so that we went through this first 50 in about 2 years. And then our next shipment was 100. But really, with the day that those first 50 arrived here in Cincinnati was a big day for us. It not only showed the investment that we made in our community, but it really showcased the people who helped make it happen. And some of those people were elder people. And I sometimes get choked up thinking about it, because to see the community service kids, there was probably, 15 of them that showed up that day, and they helped unload Todd Bowles' truck that he drove across the country from Wisconsin. Yeah. And they helped unload this, and it was really an exciting time for our community and for the Little Free Library organization, because they had never seen anything like this. And to this day, now we have 250 of those out in our community, each one helping in their little corner of their neighborhood enhance book access, but also build community. And we're not finished. We're going to order another 50, and hopefully over the next 2 years, those 50 will get installed. And it's been very gratifying to see how each steward really has a finger on the pulse of what their community needs. We have heard everything from, I have a new mom in my neighborhood, so I need some board books for babies, or I have a kid who is obsessed with Diary of a Wimpy Kid in my neighborhood, so could you keep giving me those types of books? But it was from that feedback from those stewards that we learned that we needed to do a better job of the books that we were providing, because many of them wanted bilingual text, or they wanted books with characters that look like the kids that live there. And those were not getting donated in the used book pipeline. And so we then would write for grants, buy those books, but then we were hesitant to put it in the Little Free Library because it wasn't very strategic. We knew all those books were going to go in a day. So how do we distribute those in a way that's really meaningful? And then the idea of our new program was born from that.
So you were going primarily off of requests, like when you talk about bilingual, that's how it worked? Like yes. You would implement some and then get some by request? Or?
Right. Yeah, so back in the day, before we moved to our new facility about 4 years ago, we were in the Fox 19 building downtown in kind of a suite of offices. So my office might have had like the chapter books, and somebody else's office might have had like the early readers. It wasn't really conducive for the work that we do now. But we would get these requests from Little Free Library stewards, and we would pull what we could for them. And then, but we knew we needed to do something bigger and better. And so about 4 years ago is when we moved, not too far. We're still in Queensgate near the Union Terminal, but now we have a 20,000 square foot facility. We have a warehouse with brand new books, and then we have a separate warehouse for the gently used books. And we can really customize those requests. And we actually have like a link on our website where our stewards and multiple partners can go on and they can request books about specific types. So for instance, if a teacher is going to do a unit on volcanoes or natural disasters, they can reach out to us in advance and say, could you please give me 40 to 50 copies of these types of books, and our volunteers pull them. We have them ready. It's about as seamless as it can be.
Yeah, so my mom works at St. Lawrence, which is mostly Hispanic.
Yes.
And she was talking about how one of those days that books got dropped off. So is that the type of stuff you do for the bilingual schools?
Yeah, so what we do is we go one step further with our new program. We launched 4 years ago when we moved to that new facility, and St. Lawrence is one of our schools. We're really proud to partner with them. And this curated book distribution program enables teachers to go onto our website, and once a month, they pick a book for each student in their class. So if they have 25 students, they can pick 25 different titles, and they really customize it to the child so that it aligns with their needs, their interests, their reading level. And we also have teachers that break it down by what are really reading levels, but they call them book clubs to make it seem more mature. And the teachers also have the flexibility to give every student the exact same title if they choose, because it might align with their curriculum. And so we see a lot of variety throughout the year. But that program is very much empowering young readers in a way that our other program has not, because these books, they go home with the child. They have a book plate in the front. The child gets to write their name in it. They have that pride of ownership. And the goal is to build the home library, but also enhance family connections with reading. And the bilingual text, specifically because the child can read in their new language and their parent can read in their native language, we hear feedback from parents where they say, this is the first time we can share a book together that is ours, because we can read to them and then they can read to us. And so that is our premier program, just because it really incorporates the knowledge that the teachers have, but then it engages the family too.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you've been on this mission for a very long time. Could you talk us about your most impactful movement? Could it be him driving from Wisconsin, or could you just touch upon what you've thought is the most impactful moment on your journey?
Yes, gosh, there are so many neat things where I think in total it would be seeing how our community shows up for us time and time again to help kids they will never meet. And we have several groups that come every single week. We have a Tuesday group and a Thursday group, and these groups of volunteers are dedicated to our mission. They know if they don't show up, we may not be able to get the books out this week. And then we have other groups that show up maybe just once or once a quarter, and yet their work makes a dramatic difference because they're all showing up where they can, sharing their gifts, their talents, their time. And it's the connections that they're bringing to us that have opened up opportunity. A few years back when we first started, we had the UC football team come and volunteer. And wouldn't you know, about a year later, a woman called me and said, I have these beautiful pop-up books that are brand new. They're $40 a piece. And my son was on that football team, and he told me what you did, what you guys do every day, and I want to donate them to you. And we every year at Christmas for the children in our curated program, we give them a special holiday book as a bonus. And I said, oh my gosh, what is this book about? And it was about animals in the winter, and it one of those very intricate pop-up books. She had more than enough to give every student in our program that book. Now, we would never be able to afford a book like that, but because that student from that football player from UC was paying attention that day, he connected us to his mom. Children got to get a copy of that book that they would have never gotten. And I happened to tutor at Euler, and that year I was working with a student who I just could not impress her with any book. She was just not, I'd bring a new book every week to try to get her excited, and she just really wasn't into reading. Well, the day she got that pop-up book, she was so excited. She said to me, I know you have never, ever seen a book like this, because she had never seen a pop-up book ever before. And she's like, look at this. This is the coolest book. And to have that gift because of that one person that was there making that, just paying attention, it made a huge difference to so many children. And we see things like that all the time where people just truly care. We get to see this goodness that just pours out of people.
About how many books was that you got, and how many kids got books at the
So that year, we had around 3,200 children in our program. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she donated 3,500 books. So we were able to give the extra copies to many of our partners. We now work with over 160 partners in our community, including like Ronald McDonald House, the Dragonfly Foundation, Success by Six. We really, wherever families and children are going to interact, we want to be there. We want kids to see books as a community priority. A few years back when we started this program, there were kindergarten teachers that had told us that kids were arriving in kindergarten and they did not know which way the pages turned. And so we said we need to be very intentional about working with students or children before that, so that kids don't come to kindergarten not knowing how a book works. We need to start that education early. So that's why we work with so many other young organizations that work with birth to preschool.
So I talked about how I went to Wyoming and we saw little free libraries. So like, where are you guys located around here? Since you work with all the bigger organizations, like where are you located around here? Like,
Yeah, so our main hub is right down in Queensgate, but then our little free libraries are throughout. We have them at laundromats, schools, churches, parks, individuals. It's really where families and children gather. We want to capitalize on that. And sometimes you'll see, even here in Price Hill and in Westwood, our little free libraries are maybe only like 2 blocks apart. But what we've learned is if it's on your pathway home from school, you might not go that extra 2 blocks. But if we can make it conducive so that it's on your way and you're more likely to do it, it's worth that investment to have them, even if it is 2 or 3 blocks from another one.
what's been the favorite spot you've put in so far, like along the way?
Yeah, one, number 200 is pretty
200?
special to me. That one is at Olden View Park, which is up in Price Hill. I grew up over here, and that park, you see a cross-section of our community. You see people who live up there. You see people who come to enjoy dinner at Incline House or Prima Vista, or maybe to go to the Incline Theater. And so that little free library gets a lot of use. And I love that it really engages so many different people from all parts of our community. Another one is a little free library that's right over on the west side of town, but it was stewarded by an 11-year-old boy when it first started about 6-7 years ago. So he is no longer 11, but he is a kid that just really cared about books. And when he heard about our initiative, he worked with us and his mom a little bit, but it was mostly him because he wanted to make sure that his neighbors had books too.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, on your website, I was looking at some things that said in most economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, only 1 in 300 students have an age-appropriate book at home, and you were saying how you try to put them closer together so that not as spread as the statistic changed from the beginning.
Yeah, where areas where our program is, our curated program, and then where our little free libraries, we are seeing that kids have much more access to books than ever before. But we are only scratching the surface. Mm-hmm. Our curated program currently serves about 4,000 students over 20 schools, and we are only serving about 25% of the need. So there is much more work to be done, but we believe we will get there. Our community truly has shown up for us in ways that we had never imagined, and I believe they will help take us to this next chapter.
Mm-hmm. So there's this pilot program that you guys started in 2022. Has that helped with the statistic of 25%?
Yes, it sure has. And we do a survey twice a year with teachers and parents as well as principals to find out the impact of this program. And what we see is the efficacy of that program continues to grow. The best part of the surveys are the verbatims from teachers and parents who are saying, it's not only about having that pride of ownership that these books are now theirs, but they're building habits around reading. They're sharing, like little first and second graders are sharing these books with their younger siblings and encouraging them. And book giveaway days are one of their favorite days of the month. And the other thing that a couple of the parents have mentioned is now their child loves to organize their bookshelves because they have books to organize, where previously they didn't have any books. And we serve kindergarten through third grade through that curated program. And so because they get 10 books a year, by the time they exit our program, they'll have 40 books that are unique to them. Like no other child in our program will have that same collection, because all along the way, the teacher is selecting titles for that individual child. And so I think their collection will even rival their more affluent peers, because, I know even for my kids, as much as I loved reading, I was not buying them a book a month. I was taking them to the library, but we were then returning them, and then special books were things that I might purchase as a gift. But the fact that these children have 40 books that are their own, I think it speaks volumes about this community that made this happen, because even though our staff is small, there's 9 of us, our reach is very broad, because the people who show up, and not only they help bring the books in, they sticker each book so it has a book plate, they then pull those orders, and then we partner with people who deliver for us to those schools. So all along the way, it's all volunteer power, except for those 9 people in the building.
So with those other programs and other people that help with Queen City Book Bank, how has that fully impacted everyone?
It really has been a very comprehensive approach. Now we feel like we are living our mission more fully than ever before, because if a child is struggling to be a strong reader, not only do they have school, which in home, but now we have tutoring support and we have book access programs. And even for schools that are not in our curated program, because we have a lot of schools that would like to be in that program, but we just don't have the funding to be able to support all of them at this point. But they can access our gently used books through that link I was saying on our website. And so we have a lot of teachers that are building their home libraries, or they're creating these little mini book giveaway days because of the books that we have. So now we feel like we are able to present them with a variety of avenues to support their children.
Yeah, well, we don't have much more, but since you've been going on for 40 years, is there anything you really want to improve upon for years to come?
I think it's just being able to continue to serve at the high level of service that we provide. We are very proud of the work that our tutors and our volunteers do within our community, because reading is such a foundational skill. It's what we call a super skill, because it's one of those skills that leads to other skills. You can't be good in math until you really understand how to read a word problem, right? Or you can't be good in science until you learn to read and comprehend. So if we can really beef that part of the learning process, the kids will be able to go beyond and do more, instead of sitting there spinning their wheels if they cannot read. So I certainly want to serve more children, and along the way, if we can continue to iterate and learn more and make the process as seamless as possible, that's all the better.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you. And thanks to everybody with Elder who's always been so helpful, from the Elder businessmen who do book drives for us, and the volunteer tutors that come, as well as those volunteers that have helped us with those little free libraries. It's been really nice to witness. I have watched Elder my whole life, and I've seen how active you are in this community. And so it's nice to be on the recipient of that, because I see all the goodness you send our way. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Spotlight on Altiora.